Hey everyone, welcome to the live stream today. We are going to be building this 80-20 water tank frame. It's going to hold our water tank, which is 40 gallons, and then it's also going to house our hot water heater over here, which is a 4-gallon tank, and it's a Bosch. It's like a small residential style hot water tank. But yeah, we're going to go over a couple things. Got some notes here. We're going to go over the weight. That's the first thing. That's the most important because water is very heavy. We're going to talk about the hardware we used with the 80-20, and then we're going to finish it with the design. I'm going to talk about design because there's an easy way to do all the valves and do the PEX tubing and stuff like that, but because I want a specific look when this is finished, what I'm going to do is going to make this very hard for me to actually make everything line up and look the way I want it. So design is something to consider if you want something to look nice and even. Say you want all the valves to be in one spot. If you want it to look that way, a lot of stuff is going to have to move or change to get it to fit. So we'll talk about that at the very end. We'll talk about a little bit about the some electrical that we're going to be doing, and then anytime during this live stream, happy to take your questions. One question that was in the last little short mobile live stream that we did had to do with the height of the post here of this unit, and we're going to go over that as well. So that had to do with these pieces. I think this is the one. We'll get into this, but yeah, 18 inches. So this 18-inch post came up as a question, but don't worry, we're going to go over that. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to check out, I need one more piece of 80-20. So let me go pick that up and then we'll keep going here. Actually, they're hiding. They're hiding by all these pieces. So we went ahead and let's talk about weight first. Going to stick to our little agenda here, and then we'll go into how to put this together. So one thing about water systems is they're one of the heavier parts. So you get your power system that's really heavy, and then you're going to have your water system that's just as heavy, probably. And we're going to start with the water tank. So this is a Northwest Conversions 40-gallon water tank. And let's hop on the computer to show you a picture of it if you guys have not seen this company. Now, this is not sponsored. I just like to give you guys really quick, good information. So this is the company, Northwest Conversions. If you guys have heard me talk about it in the past, Agile Off-Road also sells their product. And it's the same price whether you buy it direct or get it from Agile Off-Road. Now, I've noticed that the 40-gallon tank that I bought a couple months ago, they've changed and they no longer offer it. So what they're offering now is a 36-gallon water tank over the wheel well. So pretty much kind of close to the same thing. But design-wise, this 22-gallon is pretty much what the inside of the wheel well part of the tank looks like on my end. Now what's nice is they actually have an engineering drawing, and I know that's probably hard for you guys to see. But they'll have an engineering drawing, and it's going to give you the specific dimensions, and this is going to help assist in trying to find out if this is going to fit in your van before you buy it, which is really important. So we'll get to that when we're talking about the frame. I'll go through all the measurements and then how I came up with them on my specific build. Let's see here. Get back to my screen. There we go. So let's knock off all the weight so we can get that written down. So I went ahead and took a Sharpie and wrote on all the components. So this tank with no water weighs 25 pounds. 40 gallons of water weighs 334 pounds. So that's a total of 359 pounds of this component. The hot water tank is 20 pounds, but you got to remember it holds 4 gallons of water, so that's 33.3 pounds. Add all the 80/20 hardware that we're going to be using, and that will bring the grand total of this frame and components to 442 pounds. So the reason I like to mention weight, or I haven't done it in the past, so this is something I've wanted to do, is because of safety. You have to think about, if you get in a fender bender, where is 442 pounds going to go? Not only where is it going to go, how is it going to be restrained from going anywhere? So one of the benefits to using 80/20 is it's extremely strong, extremely rigid, and depending on what type of 80/20 you actually purchase, so I'll just do a little zoom in right here. So you have a heavy duty, hopefully you guys can see the difference. There's a heavy duty one and there's a light one. So in your view, the heavy duty is on the left and the light version is on the right. You really only need the light version. I just had some of this in stock that I think when I purchased it, for some reason I purchased the thicker gauge. There's really no reason for me to do that, and I think it's just the way I bought it. The thin, it's called 15 Series Light. This stuff is incredible. It's great. And it might be a little bit overkill for this, but I think safety is very important. If you are doing a wood build, so if you're doing a wood cabinet, what you need to make sure is that your brackets, anything like that, are very structural, and that you have some type of, once you get done building your box that holds the tank, you have some way of mounting it to the structure of the van. And I mean physically bolting it to the van. So not drilling into a piece of Luan or wood panel that you either screwed or kind of glued to the van. It needs to go into the sheet metal of the van. The way that we're going to be adhering this to our van, same way we did the power system in a past video, and we have a piece of L-track that is part of our adventure wagon kit. And so this L-track, what it's going to do is we're going to repurpose these holes that hold the L-track on, and we're getting these stainless steel bolts, and we're going to have them elongated so that they'll reach into the 80/20. And this is going to allow us to take the bolt, go through the 80/20, and then mount the 80/20 to the L-track like that. And then once that's mounted to the L-track, we're only going to use about probably 6 of the bolt locations. But that is going to be that's what we're going to build off of for our strength. So we're going to come off of it like this, come down, build the frame. And then so that's going to kind of give us our this way protection. But our front to back protection is going to be up here on the front of the frame. And so we have our Flatline Vanco aluminum cabinet. And the aluminum cabinet is designed for an adventure wagon system. So we have 2 grade 8 bolts that are bolted into the L-track to the aluminum frame. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drill 2 holes into the aluminum frame down here at the bottom. And we're going to take our 80/20 brackets. So we're going to be using a ton of these today. Get the scale out of the way since we already weighed everything. So one thing, the only downside I'd say of 80/20 is the cost. It is very expensive. The price of these brackets has steadily risen over the last 2 years. I think it was like $2 and something. Now they're up to like $4 and something, so per bracket. We need 24 of these in order to build our frame. So 3, 6, 9, 12. So 3 in each corner, 12, then 24. So that's what we're going to be going with today. But this bracket, we're going to take 2 of these, and over here, we're going to put one down here in the bottom, and we're going to put one down over here on this side, and then this leg will be bolted into the adventure wagon cabinet. So that is going to give us our kind of forward, front to back, and then the top bar going into our adventure wagon is going to give us our side to side strength. Got a hammer, just a rubber mallet. Sometimes I like to use it when I'm trying to align 80-20 components. So for example, this one I noticed is a little high over here. So all I got to do is just loosen it, tap this down, and then re-tighten it. So one hack that I could give you guys if you are putting together an 80-20 system yourself and you're wondering how to cut everything really precise, I have a couple of rolls of masking tape. And then what I do is I'll put the piece of masking tape on the end of a piece of 80-20, and then I'll take my chop saw that has a Diablo cutting blade. It's a metal cutting blade. It's got a lot of teeth per inch, and it gives it a super clean, you guys can see. It's a very, let's see here. There you go. So it's a very clean cut. All right, so then we get our hardware. I think the best place to start here. Well, let's just start with our base. So this is our base. This is what I build in the van first, just to make sure that everything is going to fit. So this base is going to come, and it's not only going to wrap around, I know you guys can't see it, but it's not only going to wrap around our tank, but it's also going to go around our hot water heater. And then we'll have this open space right here, and this is going to allow us to put all of our plumbing into this system. So I'm just going to give a quick visualization so you can kind of have it in your head as you're watching this, trying to figure out where everything's going to go. For a water system, you really only need simple components. You can do a gravity feed here, so just a big pipe that's open, PVC, with a lid, and it's just gravity fed. You can just put your water hose in there and top it off. Nice and easy. Down here at the bottom, you can just have just a basic ball valve to drain your tank. So if I can get a little example for you. Somewhere. Anyway, ball valve, just off and on, simple to drain your tank. And then usually tanks have 2 ports, either one in the back or the front here, and that is where your water pump's going to suck the water out of your tank. And then last but not least, you need a breather port so that it can equalize the pressure in the tank. For example, when the water gets pumped out of the tank, if you have this closed, then there's going to be a vacuum pulled on the tank, and it's going to starve the pump. It's not good. Otherwise, if you have a gravity fed and you have this blocked, then not only is the water going to go in there, but there's no other place for it to go. It's going to come out the place that you're filling it, so kind of make a mess. So that's kind of a brief overview of all the parts. So we're kind of upgrading a little bit from the norm. So we have a 3-way valve here that's going to go at the very base of the water tank. So what that's going to do is that's going to direct us from, we're going to either drain the tank, turning it to the right, or we're going to be filling the tank going to the left. Now we're going to fill the tank with something called an aqua system. So this system I have my pieces here. So this system uses, here's the brand. Let's see if you guys can see a photo of it. So this brand's pretty cool. They make these, they self-seal, and what you do is you'd have your hose connected to this, for example, and all you do is twist, and that twisting motion pushes a spring on the inside, and that spring allows this to open. So when this is disengaged, it's sealed, and when you twist it, it's open to allow water in. So we're going to have 2 of these. The one I wanted to show you as an example, I have no idea where it went in the shop, but they're made 2 different ways. They operate the same way, but this one will be for the wash down. So this one goes here where this little mixer valve is, so you can do your outdoor shower. Ours is actually going to have a hot and cold feature, so off and on, hot and cold in the back with the spray down. And then on top, we're going to have a dish, and just remember where it is now. So we're going to have a dish like this. We've got our 2 waterproof buttons. So one is going to be a cargo light. I'll explain why that's in this dish. And then one is going to be a water level check. So those 2 are going to go in here in the dish. And the dish is up here like that. And the reason I'm using the dish and not just on top of this upholstered panel that's going on top is because you're going to have some water splash out when you connect and disconnect this. So this disc kind of holds that just in case you get a little crazy filling up your tank with water. So that's what this dish does. Actually, I misspoke on those switches. One is going to be to the indicator light for the it's going to light up the tank blue, and there's going to be a little window. You can see the water level for when you're filling it up or just want to check the water level. The other one, I'm going to try to set it up. It's either going to be a cargo light or it's going to be to turn the water pump on. I'm not sure how I want to do that. To do 2 locations of switches that work both independently and together, the wiring's a little tricky, but I probably might do that. Anyway, this is the complexity I'm going to show you when we get to the design. So to get all of this in here like that and look really cool and neat when we get done, that's the challenge. So the first thing we want to do is build the frame, and then we're going to go from the frame building and then try to figure out how we're going to locate all of these components. So where is our 80/20 going to meet up when we have these components in here? So does this need to be brought down so this dish can move forward? How high does this need to be out of the way? And then what is our offset here so that when we're looking at the back of the van, this is in the middle and it doesn't kind of look weird over here and this is over here. We want everything to be nice, clean, straight line. So it takes a lot of forethought. So as we're building this frame, you'll kind of see, we won't get through everything today, but you'll kind of see how all this stuff, plays a part in a water system. Now, aqua parts, they're expensive. 80/20 is expensive, so you don't have to have a water system like this. I know this is a high-end system. But if you just want to have a basic water tank with a pump and a drain, then that's really all you need. All right, let's start organizing our pieces to build with here. So we're going to take our frame. So we have the water tank in the back, or the hot water tank, big tank up here. So now let's just pull this out because this is the base. And then for our components, we need 3 pieces that will be our horizontal pieces. So we have 1 here in the front, we've got 1 here at the back. Remember, we have a wheel well here, so it doesn't make any sense to have some weird contraption back here because the 80/20 is very strong. So I'm going to show you in a minute that on this side specifically, we will have a part that juts out here on the bottom and the top. And we'll incorporate one of these 18-inch legs here and here. And what this is going to do is this is going to support this side. So I'll turn this around so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you can see there's no reason to put any type of support here for the water tank because we have their wheel well. This comes above the wheel well, so there's really nothing here to support. We will take some of these 90-degree tabs. We'll put some felt on them. We'll do 1, 2, and 3 here to support that. But as far as this location goes, what we have is this piece, which you can see goes right there. And then we'll have a piece of an 18-inch piece. It's going to go like that. So that will support it. This needs to be here because this one, believe it or not, is going to be about right here. So it's not actually going to be touching it. You'll see that as we move further. So for the comment that was asked, the question that was asked yesterday in one of our videos was, how high is this piece? So it's 18 inches. So they were wanting to know how high this came. So we're going to start off with, these are the 2 that are going to go up here. These 2 pieces go here and here. And then this piece, I need to transfer this. Something I forgot to do pre-live stream. Give me 1 second. This piece is just indicating where my board is actually pretty much going to start. So it's a rough place. All right, next, what we're going to do is we are going to start doing our uprights. Let's go ahead and get some hardware over here and we'll start doing that. So we need a couple of these. We're using 5/16-18 1/2 inch button head cap screws to install all this, along with lock washers. And then we're not using the roll-in, we're gonna exhaust our, it's funny, these things are called economy T-nuts. This is not a roll-in T-nut. So the roll-in T-nut, they're very expensive. So these black pieces right here, if you can use these, so what they do is they slide in. You see this piece right here slides into the channel. So you have this, slides into the channel, and then when you tighten this down, that's going to give you your joint, just like that. All right, so that looks good. So let's start putting these pieces together. You're gonna have one for this side. Now these corners, you need to make sure that you don't have any type of fitting, like a PEX fitting, either brass or plastic, that needs to kind of go around this corner. I have two locations where that's it's not an issue, but it's really, really close. So I have to make sure that there's some type of caution that I use when I put it together, or I'll definitely, it'll be too close when I install it. So I'm just tapping it to get this edge nice and even over here. The other forethought you have to put into 80-20 is when you're measuring, not only does everything have to be extremely precise, so that little masking tape hack that I showed you is the best way to cut it, in my opinion. But what you also need to do is remember that each piece of 80-20 is 1.5 inches if you're using 15 series. So it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And when you're putting it together, don't forget that if it's a piece that goes in the middle, to subtract the distance if you've measured from the bottom to the top. Don't forget and say, oh, it's 18, it's 21 inches, which that's the height. The problem is, back this up. The problem is with the 21 inches is that it's not 21, it's actually 18, because we got 1.5 inches at the bottom and 1.5 inches up here. So just make sure that, for example, this piece is coming on top of here, and you don't have it coming here and mess up your measurements. So when I started doing 80/20, I'd measure my top to bottom, and somehow I get excited, go to the saw, cut it, and then I have to remove 1.5 inches top and bottom, and waste material, which is, if there's anything you don't want to waste material on in a van build, it's 80/20 components, because the 80/20 stuff is so expensive. All right, guys, I'm gonna put you on a short break, and I'll be right back. Okay, we are right back. All right, next piece. So here's an example where a roll-in T-nut is perfect. So I can slide this down in here. But now my bottom, I have to get a T-nut because I don't want to take the whole frame apart. So I like kind of using these methods because you can kind of manage your cost. You can use the expensive stuff for the hard places that you can't get stuff into. And you can use the lower cost items to get into the easy parts. Now, when I say lower cost, that does not mean bad because, again, we're talking about 80/20. So this is the roll-in T-nut that I'm talking about. You guys can see right here. So it rolls in. It's got that edge on it that rolls in. There you go. And that ball depresses, and then this rolls into the channel, and then there's these little lines that guide it into place. And that's how, if you have a closed system, that's how, say I have this piece of 80/20 and it's closed, and I need to put this in there. So I can put it in there sideways, depress the ball, and then I can move it around. And this does take some, there's a learning curve to this. But you can see I can move it. I'll try to do this on camera. So I can slide it, and then I can put it in the channel, just like that. And then now I can actually move this wherever my bracket is. That's if I don't have a way to go in this way. So I know we're going to have the issue down here as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and put one in here. If you slide it down while turning, that's the trick to actually get it where you want it to go. Also, when you're putting this in with an Allen wrench, remember you'll need to tighten one of the 80-20 button head cap screws down first, especially if you're using a lock washer, because what you'll have is you won't have enough space to put the second screw in. So one challenge I talked about yesterday when I was doing all the measurements for this system, it had to do with making sure or finding your measurements. Now, when we went to the website and we saw the tank and then we saw this engineering drawing, everything looks perfect. You know, right angles, straight lines. That's not the reality of water tanks. So water tanks they kind of bow in different directions. So they're not perfectly, parallel. They kind of drift, especially this one has the bottom kind of kicks out. And that is just the manufacturing process. I mean, pretty much any water tank you get is going to have a little bit of kind of bow right here or on the sides. So this has to be taken into consideration when you are defining what this width is on your tank frame. So give yourself enough room to fit the tank in, and then go back and put some foam or something to take up that space. It's the best way to do it, because on a very hot day your van's going to expand and contract, and you want to have, especially for water tanks, you want to have a little bit of room for it to move. It doesn't have to be a lot. And always be mindful of how everything is fitting together. If you feel like something is too high or too low, go back, loosen the bracket. And if you need to, take that rubber mallet and get it to where it's supposed to be. One thing I'm probably going to have to do with this is this top bar is probably going to come off to put the water tank in the system or in the van. I wanted to have this made up against the adventure wagon, but the problem is it has to do with where the adventure wagon rail lands and the bow in this tank. And I wanted this to look nice rather than look weird. And what I mean by that is My power system is perfectly in line with the Adventure Wagon on the driver's side. But on the passenger side, if I had just pushed this up against the wall, I would have to raise it 1.5 inches plus another 1/2 inch for the upholstered panel. And one side would be, you know, at its height. The other side would be 1.75 inches higher. And I didn't want that. Don't forget, guys, if you are watching the live stream right now, you can ask me any question in the chat. Say hi. This will be a pretty long stream. I won't be showing this being installed into the van. After I get done building the frame, just depending on how long the live stream is, what I want to do is I'm going to I'll stop the live stream because I need to work on the detail end of this van, on the back side, because that's what's going to take me the longest time. Not that what I'm doing now is short by any means, but I wanted to get the plumbing started today, but that's probably not going to happen. What's taking so long is all these components in the back. Because I want it to look a certain way, it's making it very, very challenging to get everything to fit. And that's on me. I mean, I can make it easier, but then it wouldn't look the way I wanted it to look. I like to build the power system and water system outside of the van because it's just easier to stand up. Though you do need to be in the van getting measurements and kind of have some type of a template laid out. I know a lot of people make a lot of designs in the computer. They use CAD or they use, SolidWorks, or I forget what the popular one is. SketchUp, there you go. I don't like to do that because I'm more about the aesthetics of it, and sometimes you'll spend hours on the computer designing something, and then when you actually go to reality, it's not perfect, and you kind of just wasted all that time. So I like to do drawings where I can actually, just do something to pencil, erase it, change it. Because I think this design of how I wanted this back end to be has changed at least 6 times. Okay, there's those 2 pieces. Let's get our back post going on. Also, the beauty about 80/20 is we don't have to finish this whole thing. We can just get the main structure laid out first, And then what we can do is we can go back and add in pieces with the 1.5 inch offset that I have for the water tank now. I'm going to try, I may try to see if I can fit the water pump in here behind the water tank. I wasn't able to do that before with the original design, so hopefully I can do that now. Get you guys zoomed in just a little bit more. I'm running out of room over here to get in and out. Let's see if I can go higher with this. Trying to make my head chopped off. In just a minute, what I'll do is I'm going to go through and I'll give you some measurements of this whole entire frame. Got a few more people joining the live stream. If you guys are just joining, we're putting together an 80/20 frame for a water tank and hot water heater for our current van build. If you have any questions, just put those in the chat. Happy to answer them for you. All right, one thing here you'll have to double check when you start putting this together is, maybe I can show you an example right now, but this top piece is going to go right here. We can see that it's coming over the edge. It's because our pieces are bent in. One, it's because we're not using a square, but nothing's really perfect on this table. But what's nice is when you take your time and you do a perfect measurement and a cut, you'll be able to come back through here and just, you can loosen this if you need to, but you can just kind of come and just give it a little bit of a movement, and it's going to be able to line up with your edge nice and clean. So as long as your edges are all nice and clean and they line up, that is how you know that you're doing it right. All right. Since we're here, notice how I'm not having this bar lay on top. I'm having this bar on the inside. And the downside to that, if this was a power system, for example, is that the weight, if you had some type of shelf here and you needed this for structural, the weight can over time kind of shimmy this down, but we have no load that is acting on this. So we're going to be just fine with this design. The reason I did it this way is because I need these end pieces of 80/20. I need this slot to come all the way this way. I don't want an intersection of a cross kind of thing like this, because when I sketched out what I want to do here, I'm going to need to adjust some things maybe really close to this edge. So when you have an upholstered panel that comes on here, you need some wiggle room to move this around. And I want this to be completely clean and open on the bottom, so it's not something I have to deal with later. So if you're attaching a panel and you don't want to deal with drilling and tapping these ends like that, to have a panel, have the bolt be kind of perfect like that, you can just rotate this as long as this top piece is not a load-bearing one. Because if it's load-bearing, for example, this one is, because we're going to have our valve, our fill valve, our electrical switches. We're going to have also the plumbing and all the valves and the PEX all. So this one's nice that this is something that we can use for support. So we've opted in for this one and this orientation, and then this one will just be directly behind it like that. If you guys are wondering why I did that. So for today's video, we're gonna put this back piece on here. We'll have to remove it later because we need to drill the holes in it so that this can actually mount up to our L-track from our Adventure Wagon interior conversion kit. So we'll do that separately, but we're almost finished here. I'll get you guys a view of the tank being put in. So we'll have the water tank in the back, and then we'll put the other one in. And then if you guys have any questions, just put those in the chat. All right, next, need some more brackets. Also, when you're doing 80-20 like I am, make sure that you're putting brackets in locations to where if you ever needed to get to them, you would be able to do that. For adjustment. This, in particular case, we will have to take a bar off in order to get the tank in. If you guys remember, as we were talking at the beginning of the live stream, we're trying to contain a tank that with water filled all the way up, it's gonna be 359 pounds. 359 pounds inside this cage, this frame that we wanna make sure is safely contained. I think I just thought of the thumbnail for this video. I'm gonna put 442 pounds for the thumbnail, that'll be funny. That's what it is, just what this whole entire thing weighs. All right, looks like we got a couple more people in the live stream today working on our water tank frame to house our 40-gallon and our 4-gallon hot water tank for the van. If you guys have any questions about install, we had a question the other day about how high this system was, and this bar here is 18 inches, and then we got a bottom one and a top one that make it 21. And we're trying to contain something that topped off the 4-gallon and the 40-gallon will weigh a total, with the 80/20 frame and all the hardware, we're looking at about 442 pounds, which you may not believe is that it's that heavy, or maybe you do. The reason I like to use 80/20 in this case, one, safety, but you can't do this with a wood system, like a wood cabinet. My suggestion for you is just to make sure that you install it in a way that you can bolt it to the van chassis. If you do that, you're going to be good. Also, in today's live stream, what we're going to do is we're going to build this together, or put this together. We're going to measure it after we're done, because I know a lot of somebody's asking about measurements, so I wanted to address that before the stream's over. So I'll tell you about the measurements. The company that we're using for the water tank, this is not sponsored, but just some quick information. It's Northwest Conversions. It's their 40-gallon version of their over-the-wheel well water tank. They actually don't offer currently the 40-gallon anymore. It's a 36-gallon tank. So I might have gotten the last 40-gallon. 40 gallons is a lot. That's a lot of water. So I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't want the 40-gallon. Now my take on that is you don't have to fill it all the way up. But if you're wanting to do that one trip in the middle of nowhere, and you want to really top off with some water, being able to fill it all the way up to 40 gallons, I think will be a good benefit. All right, that's looking good. For our back piece, we're going to be, we'll be disassembling this and reassembling this in the van. This back piece is going to be connected via this L-track. So we're actually going to have some bolts, and if you can kind of think, we're going to slot bolts into the 80/20, and we're going to drill a small pilot hole through that an Allen wrench can fit. And we can actually tighten up screws going into the L-track, and that's going to securely mount the whole back of our frame. So that's going to keep it from going this way. And then up here at the front, we're going to have two more mounts like this. And so these are going to bolt into our Flatline Vanco Adventure Wagon compatible kitchen galley. So the kitchen galley actually has slots, and we're using grade 8 hardware going through those slots, and we're bolting into the vertical piece of L-track. So these will bolt into that for the vertical piece of L-track, and then for the horizontal piece will be this one. So we did the same thing for our power system. and it's extremely rigid. I mean, it doesn't move, it's not moving at all. So that's kind of how we have that set up. Keep going here, and I'm getting close to actually putting the water tank in, not forever, but just putting the tank in so I can show you guys, get you excited for what's about to happen as far as starting to connect everything. I know these live streams are extremely long, but one thing that I like about them is if you can approach them in a way that it's long, you can watch kind of bits and pieces, ask some questions when I do the live stream, but you can go back in time when the video's done and you scrub through and you can kind of get to the parts that you want to look at. And because it's a full, long form live stream, you won't miss anything. So you won't miss anything that actually happens with, putting the frame together, all that good stuff. All right, these are gonna be my last two pieces I put in. So what I'm doing now is I'm putting these, the ones that span the width of it, and these are the ones that you really need to make sure, this is what makes sure that this system is square. So what we do is this, I showed earlier, we have a little bit of an overhang. So we're square down here at the bottom, but what that means is we're not square at the top. So we actually need to bolt this in and we're going to kind of bend this out. And then once that's there, we have a perfectly square frame. Now keep in mind, that is with the assumption that you cut the whole thing square. So Jamie asked, why 40 gallons? So I don't know when you asked that question, Jamie. I don't know if you just did, but I'll just go back and say, I chose 40 gallons because why not? Venture van, you want to go out on a very big, long trip. During the day, you can keep the tank, empty, 20 gallons, 10 gallons, but that one trip you want to take, maybe you're out for like 2 weeks and you want to really top off your water, 40 gallons, 4-gallon hot water tank, 44 gallons, you are going to be set to go for a long time. The other reason I chose it, it's kind of funny, but the width of this hot water tank is the same width as the water tank. So when I go to make this panel on the side, I'm just maximizing space. I increase the size from like a 2-gallon to 4-gallon hot water, increase this, and there's really nothing going on this side of the van other than the water storage in this. And between where the Flatline Van Co. kitchen galley was and the end of the van, this just took up the space perfectly. It used almost every single inch of the space. So it was very efficient use of space. The sweet spot for water storage, in my opinion, I think the most popular, again, just my opinion, but 20 gallons I think is great. I think it's a really good place to start. Seems pretty, reasonable for, weekend trips. One thing that I forgot to mention is this van has a indoor hidden shower, and if you want to have anything that resembles a shower like at home, you're going to have water. Let's look on the internet real quick and see what the average American shower is. So the average American shower uses 17.2 gallons, and it lasts 8.5 minutes. So that can give you an idea of why you would want a 40-gallon tank. Now you're not going to have 17, you can 17 gallons to use, but remember you have 4 gallons of hot water. So 4 gallons of hot plus whatever cold you use to kind of fix your temperature, let's call it like 8 gallons or something like that. Maybe do like a 50-50. You know, it's going to be a short shower, but it's going to be, you know, enough to get you all cleaned up. But you don't want to use anywhere near that much water, because that means a 40-gallon tank is going to give you maybe 2 showers. You won't be able to use it for anything. So imagine every day, half this tank is how much you're actually using the shower on average. In a van, when I said 20 gallons is reasonable, that's because a lot of vans, if you go and look at their water tank capacity, it's kind of around that. Unless you get into like schoolies or buses or major RVs. A lot of DIY stuff that I see is like 20 gallons. So you guys see how I just took the 80-20, I locked it in over here, and then I went over here and just kind of slid it into place. That's what I really like about 80-20. It's kind of like adult Legos. It's very enjoyable to put together. Now that is when you have everything cut, measured, and you're just assembling it. It is challenging to kind of do some you got to do a lot of forethought to make sure that you don't cut something incorrectly, because whenever you cut 80-20 incorrectly, it's not good. It's an expensive mistake. It's expensive for a lot of reasons. I'm not trying to scare you away from 80-20. I'm just giving you guys heads up on getting into it. But the maximum shipping size that you can ship via UPS, for example, is 96 inches. So try to make the stuff you're designing, try to use 96 inches and try to make the most use of 96 inches. So for example, I might order 6 pieces at 96 inches at a time, and I find that seems to be, you know, being able to lift the box up when the UPS gets here, the maximum length, that's kind of what I've found, you know, works. Now that's for me in the shop. You doing your own van build may be different. All right, so we don't need this back. Actually, I need to do. Yes, let's put this back piece in. All right, we're really close to putting the tank in for a test fit. All right, so what I was saying earlier is now coming true. So I need to, let's see here. Oh no, I can still do that, it's okay. I'm going through my mind to make sure that when this gets installed and the bar gets installed and the tank gets installed, I can make sure I can tie down I can access all my screws to tie down. That's one of the more challenging things about van building is you design something, but then can you actually get to it in the van to tighten the bolt, make an adjustment, without removing half of what you installed. All right, we got the back piece in. All right, getting close, getting close. We got one more bar to set up, and then we'll come in here and slide the water tank in. And if you have trouble locating it, take your Allen wrench and just come through the hole, and you'll be able to slide that roll-in T-nut to your where you want to locate it. I am going to tighten this up pretty good, even though it's temporary, because I want to make sure that I can put a little bit of pressure on this, because I took into consideration the not square nature of the water tank. And I just want to see if what I estimated in my mind was even close. I'm usually spot on, but sometimes weird things happen. All right, we are going to measure this so that you guys can find out how big this thing is. So the water tank, the width of the water tank is 13 3/8 in a perfect world. The places where it's bowed out is 13.5 inches. Height of the water tank is 19 3/4. The middle is 19 3/4 and like an eighth. And then the back of it is almost 20 inches. Do you see what I'm talking about? We got 20 inches, 19 3/4, 19 3/4. So we got a dip. So right here, that's why we had to kind of plan around this a little bit. Our water tank is just it's close to, let's say, 14 by 14 by, let's see, 14, 13 and a half. So it's kind of like a square cube. So this one's going to go right here. Now remember, when we install this, and this goes back to the back of the van, the cool thing about 80/20 is, what we might do, now we're not going to do this for the water tank, this is just for an example purpose, but imagine this big bar was a shorter piece. So what we can do is, it looks like we're going to be able to take an 80/20 piece and just pop it in just like that with some brackets here, and that will hold our water tank, and we can just let it hang out there. We can also maybe put a piece like this, and just think of different ways to where you're not having to do, since you're already working with 80/20, instead of getting like a strap in here to kind of hold this down, a strap is fine. We actually might do a strap from the back over here to the front and just tie this down. Simple solution. But if I can cut a piece of 80/20 bar, pop it in here and push it up against the back, and this thing is very rigid, because not only is this going to be holding it, we're going to have PEX here going to, we're going to take the out, this is the emergency blow-off pressure relief valve. I don't ever see anybody hooking up a drain line to this. It's very important to do that. If this overpressurizes, say the thermostat or something messes up and it just continues to climb, this is going to get so much pressure that this safety valve is going to release and it's going to blow water all into your van. And you don't want that. All you got to do, you have your tank, you have your rear vent port, just take a piece of PEX or flex tubing, come from here, over, up, and then, so if this accidentally goes off in the future, it's going to blow out into your tank, and because your tank is vented at the back, all that excess overpressurized hot water is going to go into your tank. It's not going to mess your van up. I'm not sure why I don't see people doing that. Also, get a wrench and make sure that this is tight. Sometimes you'll buy this and the factory doesn't tighten it properly and it could leak. So just some things to think about, but essentially this is going to be a point of connection. We got 2 connections up here. These 2 PEX lines are going to go into a PEX line holder. That's a plastic. And so this is going to be very secure. All right, enough talking. Here's our hot water tank. It's pretty much where it's going to live. So next, let's get the big finale here and see how this actually fits. Since we're doing this live, you guys get to see if I did a good job or a bad job. All right, so we're just gonna pop it in there like that. And so I did a good job. Everything is nice and ready to go. We have enough room for our pickup tube for our water pump back here in the back. If we look here, we've got, we have our odd 1/4 inch bubble of the tank that's coming here. So that is holding the tank on the back side. Finally, we've got this side of the tank where we're going to have this final back bar. So this is where this is going to be the tightest fit. We are going to have to put a little bit of pressure on here, but that was already planned. Well, actually, we don't. Never mind. I gave it enough room. Perfect. Okay. And just for the sake of the live stream, I'm going to put in 2 screws so we can call this test fit checked off. And then I'm going to give you some overall dimensions of this frame, just so you guys have an idea of the footprint we're working with. If you decide to do something close to a 40-gallon tank and something close to a 4-gallon tank as a combination water water supply for your van. So this is the only spot that it has a little bit of it's just a very tiny little bit of a bind. It's nothing, no big deal. Actually, it's good. It's good. It's like a perfect fit. That's really what I should call it. It's a perfect fit. right, guys, get your questions ready, because as soon as I tell you the measurements and dimensions of this, we're going to answer a couple questions, and then we are going to end the live stream for today. So, yeah, get those questions ready. Okay. Everything is in here. It's fitting perfectly. Let's get some dimensions. And then finally, the last thing on my little to-do list for you guys, we're going to talk about design of this backhand side. And then hopefully we'll get some questions from you while I'm finishing this up. All right, the overall length of this whole entire thing, I think was like 62 and 1/8. Nope, I was very off. The interior is that. The exterior, the length of this whole thing is 65 and 1/8 inch. The width is 16 and 1/2, and then the height is 21. We're going to be covering this with 2 1/2-inch wood panels that are upholstered, and then this back piece is going to be a 3/4 inch piece of wood, and that's to incorporate our valves. So let me just show you a brief overview of what the valves look like for this, what we're going to be using. So we're using some Aquar parts, and they're like a residential part for a water hose for, you know, like nice homes and stuff like that, but you can actually repurpose them for boats. It's kind of like a deck wash system type of thing. Let's start from the bottom up. So at the very bottom right here, we have a 3-way valve. This is from Titan Vans DIY. So not sponsored, but I really like their DIY kits. So we'll just briefly show you what those look like. So you go to TitanDIYkits.com. You can see they have all kinds of stuff to help you with your van. The stuff is expensive, but you have to understand what they're doing is they're taking a hose from one manufacturer, they're taking a valve on and off, hot and cold mixture valve from another one, they're putting it into a recessed aluminum plate. So even though it costs, you know, what is that, $345, you're getting a lot of custom hardware that is very hard to find, number one. Number two, it's fitting in a tight spot, which is the whole reason, you know, products like this exist. So we're going to use something like that in this van. I'm going to modify it like I do pretty much with everything that I find. Kind of do it to the way I like to do it. But we're going to have this. We're going to have this wash down, put into here, something like that. So I want everything to be kind of a vertical orientation, not wide. So I want it like that. And then up here in the top, I'm going to have a dish, something mounted like, something like that. And this top piece is going to be the fill valve. So it's an Aquar City Fill. So you take this off, and then this is going to how you twist in a twist connection, and that's going to allow you to hook up to the top, you know, put your water in. This will not have a gravity fill. If the future customer wants a gravity fill, the port's right there. I can make something work. This is designed for, this is, you know, high-end build. We want to have nice high-end parts, so this will be connected to a garden hose fixture, and it will twist in, you'll turn it on, fill the tank up, turn it off, disconnect, and you're done. This little dish is going to house our tank level indicator light. So you just turn it on. It's going to glow right here. There's going to be an opening to where you can actually see what level the tank is. So the tank will glow blue through a little sight glass. This back switch, I got a piece of tape on there because I'm kind of undecided. I either want it to be the water pump on and off, so you don't have to go in the van and turn the water pump on and come all the way to the back of the van, but that complicates the wiring. It's not impossible. I can do it, no problem. But to keep things simple back here, I also wanted to add a cargo light switch. So this has white tape on it because it's probably going to be the cargo lights that are streamed down here. And so that you can turn your cargo lights on over here. I'm just trying to keep things simple. And if we just have one switch by the sink that you're going to use 99% of the time to turn the water pump on and off, that may be the solution. And then just keep this very simple, just so it's not overcomplicated. This is on, off, and then twist for hot and cold. You'll have another port similar to the one that you fill with this. This will twist in, and then this will be there for your wash down. So those components, the last one, we'll look at the computer really quick. That is this three-way valve. So the three-way valve is going to allow you to drain or close or open for fill. And it just helps you direct the flow of your water throughout your van. And again, it's not sponsored. I just think it's a really good option. And for me, this is all aesthetic parts. You guys can do this from PVC valves from Lowe's. You can do simple stuff, you know, PEX valves on and off. You can have stuff hidden. For me, I'm very visual about my van designs, and I want stuff to look really nice, high-end, and just for example. So I like using components like this that it just, to me, it looks really cool, nice and clean. So that goes down here at the bottom, and then we'll have it so you can drain the van out, or you can turn it to fill the van up. And you want to have this valve because to winterize, you're going to be able to want to open this valve. So say you drain your tank, and then you turn it to this. You can depress the spring in here, and then to winterize, you depress that spring and turn the valve to the right, and then that's going to drain that tube of water clean. So this is clean, the tank's drained out. You can do that with one valve, but the way I have this set up, this is a step that I'm going to have to take to make that a reality. So yeah, that is pretty much the setup here. Let's see what else that we got. All right, last but not least, let's talk about the DIY van build cheat sheet. So if you guys are doing a DIY van build and you need some help on some parts, you want to have a list of stuff that I've used in the shop, kind of a list to an organized list of a bunch of parts. So what I've done is I've taken the last 3 years of my Amazon purchases and I've put them onto this DIY van build cheat sheet. It looks like this. It's essentially an Excel document with all the parts in here. For example, I just typed in pump. So I went in and searched P-U-M-P, and right here comes up the C-Flow water pump that we're going to be using for this project. If I go in and I type in heater, and I cycle through here, I can see that I've got my Bosch 4-gallon hot water tank that I can go and search. So if you guys want to get this list, it's completely free. All you got to do is go to vanbuilderhq.com or click on the link in the description below, and you'll be able to check out this cheat sheet. And last but not least, again, let's talk about Odyssey Custom Vans. So Odyssey Custom Vans is my custom van conversion business. So what you're seeing here goes into an Odyssey Custom Van. It is the tank that I'm putting together. And that's for the van that's actually in this video. So if you guys want to see a kind of a quick walkthrough of this build so far, we took this van to Adventure Van Expo in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we did a walkthrough. This van is currently for sale. There's a couple components, as you can see here, that we're finishing up. But yeah, just want to get the word out there that this van is currently for sale if you're watching this video, and you can go down into this description and find out all this stuff as far as the Ford Transit van, the chassis that it's built on. This is an all-wheel drive van with the EcoBoost turbocharged V6. We have a lot of good interior parts, such as the Adventure Wagon interior conversion kit, which is the base of this van project, as well as a lot of the kitchen galley and other components for storage, such as the overhead shelves. That it comes from Flatline Van Co. And then down here we have some pictures to show you, just to get started as far as what everything's looking like so far with the build. We did finish up the power system, so instead of it being kind of open with the wires, see the internals, we have covered everything up, and that is kind of all checked off. And now, last but not least, we are working on the water system. So if you want to get in touch with me, you're interested in purchasing this van, if it is not already sold, you can contact me here. It is sales@odysseycustomvans.com. We can also talk about current vans we currently do have for sale. My phone number, 828-244-8957. If you guys want to get in touch, the best way to contact me is to click and schedule a call. So click on this link. You can schedule a call with me right here, and just click on a date on the calendar, such as tomorrow. Pick a time. It's going to go right onto my calendar, and you can schedule a time to chat. All right. Hope that video was exciting, that we actually got this kind of checked off on our list. Now the next step is I'm going to leave this on the bench as I create this back panel to house all of these components right here. Building this frame of the tank, measuring stuff, that's pretty much one of the easier parts of this. The harder part is to get everything to look good and then manage all of the PEX tubing and stuff behind the scenes. One, to make sure that it fits well. Two, to make sure it doesn't rattle and the plastic's not tapping on everything when you drive. So we'll probably go over that in a future stream. And then just mounting this to make sure it's not going to move or go anywhere. Which that's the one thing I left off of this little talk, was I will be putting a piece of 80/20 here. You guys can see that it just happens to be perfect. That is going to allow us so that this tank is not moving in and out when we get this thing nice and complete. So what we'll do is we'll put this piece in, we'll push the tank forward so that it's nice and flush with this. One thing I do, this is a pro tip, you guys should definitely do this in your van, buy some felt tape. And if any metal to metal contact happens, so for example, this valve down here, that is going to have felt on it so that it doesn't rattle when we're going on the off-road trails. We want to make sure this doesn't scrape against the metal, so we're going to have felt tape back here. And then we'll come to the back of the van, and we'll put a bar going across the back here, and that's going to make sure that we have this secure front to back. So we've got our side to side, top to bottom, and then this is going to be our front to back to make sure that everything's nice and secure. We'll probably do just a strap here in the hot water tank. I need to make sure that I have enough room to move it out of the way so that I can access this port down here. You can't see it, but back here in the van, this is what we're doing. I'll just talk about it now since we're here. Turn the valve to the left. It's going to allow us to connect our water fill up to the top. It's going to come down a tube into the back of the three-way valve, come out here, and that's going to fill our tank from the bottom. The reason I was saying that this is not a gravity-filled tank in its current configuration is because it's not. The water hose pressure, or the city water pressure, is what's going to fill the tank. So what you're going to do is you're going to put it in here, and you'll have like a little valve such as this, going to connect to your water hose. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this, twist it, and then that water pressure is going to fill your tank up. So it's going to actually fill from the bottom. It's good to know that because, for example, in the Marine One van build that we did, because of our constraints with where the tank and the bed and the sink and everything were, we had no room up here because this 80/20 had to be in front of the top two ports, so we couldn't access them. And we could only fill it from the bottom. and that's worked no problem. It's been very easy to fill the whole entire tank up. Same thing with this. But in the future, if the owner did want to, there actually is space here for a gravity fill. But for right now, we're not going to do gravity fill. If you want to add it, no problem. We can cut a hole out here and put some piping in for a gravity, but this works just fine, and that's what we're going to go with. The aesthetic looks really good, looks cool. So that's how it's going to fill. Then down here at the back, this is where the actual water pump is going to be connected. So the water pump is going to be pulling it from over here. Two reasons. One, this is the most convenient spot. The second reason is because there's only so much height that a pump can pull water up. It's a certain, I think for the pump that we're using, it's like 6 feet of, I thought maybe it's called head pressure or something like that. But you need to look in the manual to find out how long the tube can be. It's not a length, it's actually a height. How high can your pump be from where the base is sucking up water from a tank? There's a maximum that you can go. If you go over that, the pump is going to have a hard time pulling water out of your tank, regardless if you have this much water in it. It's just not designed to do that. So make sure that your pickup point for your pump is as close to your pickup point from your tank as possible, and it's not too high and not too far. So the pump will most likely, I don't think I can fit it inside the tank area. It's going to be inside underneath the kitchen galley, so I'm pretty sure that's where we're going to put it. That way, when we run a line all the way back to here for both the hot and cold water lines, we won't have to worry about, the pump can push the water all day. It's pulling the water from the bottom of the tank that you want to be really careful that you don't have that distance very far. You can push water a long way. It's harder to pull the water. All right, finishing up here, what else did we not talk about? That's pretty much it. Yeah, we're going to call it for the live stream today. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video and checking out this long live stream. If you have any questions, water system related, hot water, tank, put those in the comments below. We'll answer that in a future video if we can get to it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share this to anybody who is doing their own van build and maybe needs some help on getting some ideas for water tank design or sizes and components and stuff like that. Yeah, so we got some exciting videos coming up next week, which is tomorrow. So look out for those videos. We'll probably do a long live stream, something to do with this van over here. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, hope everybody had a great weekend, and we'll see you guys in the next live stream. Oh wait, there we go. Tristan's got a question. It's funny, every time I go to end the live stream, I get a question, so I'll make sure I'll stop if I see it. So just in time. Okay, thoughts on pump on top versus side. So let's, you're talking about pump orientation. Oh, that's all caps. All right, let me move my camera down since we're not building anymore. So, Tristan, are you talking about pump orientation? I think that's what you're talking about. So while you're answering that, let me go and pull up the pump that I'm using. Let's see here. Drawing from the top. All right, I'm going to pull up Oh, so putting the pump on the top of the tank, is that what you're asking? So I'm looking this up. They don't have an orientation, but I'm going to pull a pump so I can explain just my experience, what's the best way to do it. And we can kind of work out if I'm answering your question or not. So let me clean all this stuff off of here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you where, if the pump is on the top of the tank, what orientation to put it in. And if that is not what you're asking, just tell me and I'll see if I can answer it a different way. So if you have a pump like this, what you're going to have is some isolation feet. That's obviously so that, it doesn't make that much noise. But the most important, is you're going to have your flow, direction of flow. If you, so you can mount the pump this orientation so that you're picking up and going where you need to go. You can do it this orientation for you're picking up from the bottom and taking it to wherever you need to go. This orientation. I would say what you don't want to do is you don't want to have the air. You want the arrows always need to be point up or forward, backwards, side to side. You don't want the arrows pointing down, as in you don't want the pump up here, the pickup coming here, coming over, and then coming down, because there's a chance to where it's not going to prime itself correctly. I mean, technically, if the pump has a good prime, this is a, what kind of pump is this? I forgot. This is a diaphragm pump, so hold on one second. So impeller-driven pumps or diaphragm pumps are a little different. So I'm not sure. I have to research that a little bit more. I think the impeller pumps the diaphragm pumps, the orientation is not as critical, but don't take my word on that. Because their self-priming nature is the reason I think that's not an issue. So this says self-priming so the pump can be located in a location higher than the water tank. So maybe that answers your question. So we said, basically, is it worth avoiding tank fittings on the side to avoid leak potential? Is it worth avoiding tank fittings on the side? So my opinion for leak potential is I really wouldn't worry too much about leak potential. Now, if you got 8 different ways that the tubing's going, maybe you need to reconsider how you lay stuff out. But typically, the bottom here, you're going to have one connection, whether it's the PEX or if it's tubing. You're going to have a hose clamp. So you'll have a hose clamp, so that's 1, and then coming up to maybe a 90, that's 2, and 3 for your pump. As long as you're using the appropriate hardware, so the correct fittings for the idea of the tube, you're not overstretching stuff, things are tightened down, you should be very comfortable with how the system's going to operate. Don't really worry about leaks. The number one thing about water pumps in vans is some people will forget to they'll buy a pump like this, and so this is a good pump. It's a C-flow pump diaphragm, and it'll ramp up and then ramp down. So you don't have this surging that's typically, you'll actually need to have a accumulator tank to stop that. This one I don't have to use an accumulator tank. The point I'm getting at is, if your pump is always off, okay, I think I see where your point is. So if your pump is up here, I see what you're saying. If your pump's up here and you had a leak, you're saying the tube is going up so that the pressure of the water in the tank wouldn't come out if you had an issue with the pump. I think that might be what you're talking about. But making sure that your pump is always off when you're not using the system, that's the most critical part. Some people will forget that the pump is on because it'll automatically shut off. And then when they go out on a trip or something, or they leave the van in storage and, for some reason a line drips or freezes or whatnot, and the pressure changes, the pump will actually turn on to try to make that pressure difference. And then that's when the lines may blow off or leak. So just make sure the pump's off is the most important thing. If you want to put the pump above the tank, just to give you a peace of mind that if the pump, something happened up here that, the water wouldn't overcome where this is. What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, I'm hoping that is it worth avoiding tank fittings on the side? The way that I would approach it is, if you're going to use the pump, make sure you turn it on, turn it off. That's the golden rule of RVs and vans in general. Make sure you're always turning the water pump off when you're not in use. The pump itself needs to be, the second thing is consider where you can actually access the pump in case of repair or you need to work on it. And then third is, does the manufacturer tell you that it needs to be put in a certain location to function properly? That's kind of the three pieces to go off of. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. Check with the pump that you have. It should tell you where to put it. But as far as the pumping up here or down here, that's not going to change the functionality. What the pump doesn't like is being too high to where it can't start the prime to prime itself. So anyway, hope that helps you. If you guys have any more questions, just put those in the chat and we'll talk more about it. Don't forget, we're going to be plumbing this, so you'll actually get to see my thought process in plumbing each part of this from the back all the way to the sink. So we're going to go through that. There's also a link. Let's see here. I'm going to put the link to the last video I did. Mounting a drip tube through the top of the tank instead of a side bottom. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So on this tank, there is top ports. There's one, it's one right here. And some tanks have no stuff on the side. They're all sealed up, what you might want to do, so you don't have a risk of the tank leaking. That's okay. So that the tank is, like you just said, almost like a bathtub. It just, the stuff is being sucked out of the top, and the vents on the top. So I think that's where you're going from. One thing that I would recommend for you, if I have it over here, there is a food grade soft setting sealant that I use. It's called Rector Seal. I think it's number 5. Not sure why I can't find it, but that's what I use for all these fittings down here. because it is stressful. You know, if you have fittings down here, let's say they leak, you know, that could be stressful. So what I do is I use this soft setting compound, and I used it in Marine 1 build that we did, which is Thomas's van, and it's been doing great. And it just allows, you want to make sure that if you're using a tank like this, you know, plastic fittings into plastic is the best way to do it. You don't want to do metal into plastic. You can, you just need to make sure that there is no forgiveness in the metal, and you could damage it if you over tighten it. So that's why that soft setting seal that I use, or that pipe sealant, is so nice, is because you can get it in there pretty tight, to where you're not overdoing it, and then over time that soft set will set. And I like it because it's a soft set like it says, so any vibration is not gonna, you know, create a leak. Yeah, so that is that. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, let me paste that one link to that video, and then we'll close this out. So I have a, let's see here, can't tell. Okay, I'm gonna paste this link. I think this should be related to the van, but this is it's a how to lay out a PEX A water system. So this is what the video looks like. So this is one I did about a year ago. And so what I do is I lay out all the components, and I draw and show you how I'm connecting the water tank to the water pump, something like that. Yeah, appreciate you watching the videos, Tristan. If there's any questions you have, so over the next week or so, this is obviously going to be live. We're going to be working on this tank. And so if there's any tips you want to pull up from that, cool. If you have any questions, let me know. But this video that's playing right now, this is what we did for Thomas's van. And it's just kind of like an overview of how we did his water system. His was challenging because we didn't have the space. We needed to use the space for other things. This build, I've got lots of space. I've got space on the back, the front, the sides. I'm not worried about where the PEX tubing is going on this one. But his build was very tight spaces. But yeah, yeah. All right, guys, I'm gonna grab some food, take a break for a minute, and get ready for tomorrow's live stream. I'm gonna keep it as a surprise for you, so you're just gonna have to look forward to what that is. But yeah, that is gonna do it for today's live stream. Again, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, like this video, share it to anybody that's doing a water system install. Don't forget to check out the DIY van build cheat sheet, and check out the current vans for sale at odysseycustomvans.com. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next video.